Good morning, and thanks for tuning in to NL Mornings. All right, Bill, I think this is a pretty neat story that we
Yes.
have to share here. Isabelle Hampton-Stone from Sun Peaks, partnering with the renowned Cleveland Clinic to enhance surgical excellence. You might know her as a mental performance coach. She's also an author, Hockey Confidence, How to Train Your Brain to Win in Hockey and Life. I believe our own John Keane actually did some of the voice
Yes,
work
that's right.
for that book if you're looking for an audio copy of that. So let's chat with her and figure out how this partnership with the Cleveland Clinic kind of all came to be. Consulting professor with the Cleveland Clinic, Isabelle Hampton-Stone, joining us now. Izzy, good morning. How are you today?
Good morning to you both. It's lovely to be speaking with you today.
Well, we definitely appreciate your time, and maybe we'll start by kind of looking at how you got to this point. I mean, obviously, you're a mental health coach. You've done a lot of work in this field, and I've seen a lot of people who have talked about your work, how you've helped them, the experience that they've gotten. I mean, it sounds like you're very much resonating within the athletic community and how you are able to help with the mental health and the performance side of things. How did you get down to working with the Cleveland Clinic here, though? That seems unlikely if you were to ask me how this all came to be.
Absolutely, and I would agree, and so would my mum. When I let her know about the opportunities that were coming up, we had a really good talk about it. And what I'm finding is more and more, just like years ago when Donnie Moores, you might remember the wonderful Donnie Moores, the president of the Kamloops Blazers, he would say things like, Izzy, you're helping our players to think clearly, to stay calm, to be centered, and to take the shot. And he would say, well, what can you do for me? So I would start working with people in management, people in different areas, people I'd never thought I'd ever work with, paramilitary personnel, people who went on to be government ministers, the fabulous Ian Meyer, who was head of the BC Wildfire Service. They all wanted the same ability to take the shot as I was giving the players. Now, as much as I was enabling the players to be calm and focused and confident, without their natural inbuilt talent, they never would have done as well as they did when I worked with them. But they also helped me. They helped me to hone my skills. I was always fascinated by how is it that some players can get in the zone of peak performance? How can they get into that flow state where they almost seem like they hold time in their hands and they're fully in control? And over the years, working with my athletes, working with my leaders in other areas of life, particularly in business and leadership, I found that I was able to hone my own skill to remind them of times in their life where they were able to excel, feel strong, feel deeply relaxed, but deeply alert at the same time. And that, to me, is the key to peak performance. So the years go by, and I write a book about hockey confidence, and the wonderful John Keane, whose voice has such resonance, became the voice of the audio book, as you say, for hockey confidence. As time went by, that book took on a little life of its own, and it reached the hands of one of the decision makers at the Cleveland Clinic, a fabulous man called James Young, who runs a department for the Cleveland Clinic for the world-leading heart surgeons and lung surgeons. And this guy really thinks out of the box. He was looking around to other professions and saying to himself, what can we learn from other people? He got hold of the book. He got hold of me. Next thing I know, I'm traveling to Ohio to mentor and lecture and serve as consultant professor at the Cleveland Clinic.
Now, with your system that you have, I mean, there's other people that are life coaches and unlocking your potential and such. What makes your system different from all the other ones that are out there?
Yeah. So I think what makes the biggest difference is there is a format where firstly, and this is the secret source of my work, I use neuro-linguistic programming as well as my own experience of altering states of mind to achieve optimal performance. And for those that are new to neuro-linguistic programming, it's how do we affect immediate change in mental state and behavior state so that we can have a completely different outcome. For example, I might have an NHL player coming to me struggling with the ups and downs and the high expectations placed on him, especially as in one case with someone who's already won a Stanley Cup. Actually going for the second one brings a whole new set of stresses and strains, as I think you can understand. What I've been able to do is distill, as I've watched my athletes in the peak zone state, I've been able to distill component parts of how they got into that zone state and put them into a methodology, a system called a performance intelligence pathway, a pathway so that every single time we work together, we first get into that altered state of mind where the potential, someone's perceived potential, is limitless. It opens up a whole galaxy of opportunities in the way they think about what they're capable of.
Izzy, I am curious to know if there is any difference in the way you would approach working with an athlete versus, you'd mentioned you've worked with, first responders and wildfire fighters. Yeah. I mean, that's a much different mental game than playing a sport. I mean, how do you approach dealing with them? Or is it the same? Because, the mental health aspect, although you might be having a different end result or maybe the stress level's a little bit different depending on what type of field you're in. I mean, at the end of the day, it's still, mental awareness that you're working on.
Absolutely brilliant question. I came across a quote by Deepak Chopra, and he said the highest levels of performance come to people who are centered, intuitive, creative, and reflective, people who know how to see a problem as an opportunity. Whether I'm working with an NHL player with those high expectations, a business owner trying to fight fires but not getting ahead, a government minister who is stressed and overwhelmed but desperately wants to serve and lead, or maybe even a CEO of a multinational, they're struggling with similar high expectation stress and overwhelm. What happens? The sleepless nights show up. That 3 a.m. wake shows up. The health issues, the self-doubt. As a result of us working together and me enabling them to access that full potential state of mind, they gain self-awareness. They conquer their emotional triggers and they unlock their peak performance. So yes, it's completely different roles in life, but in some ways they all have to perform under pressure. They're all in their own ways looking to serve, and they're all looking to unlock their human potential.
Wow. I mean, it's not like a shocking response, but yet very informative, at the end. I wasn't sure. I would kind of think it would be a similar approach, but you just don't know because there's very, very much extremes into kind of what you're trying to accomplish, right?
Yeah. You're totally right. The realm in which I work may be different day to day. The languaging changes, but the message stays the same.
Mm-hmm. Now I'm looking at your website here, and you one of the sections you're explaining is clutter of the mind.
Yes.
That's a big thing with me. I can't get that hamster wheel to stop sometimes. What is quickly that you could give, like just a bit of advice you could give to a guy like me saying, how do I quiet my mind down?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we've all been there, probably on a day-to-day basis. It's almost like, wow, you're hungry, but your plate is so overloaded with food, you don't know where to start. What I would say is the mind is trying to serve you. It's giving you all of these pieces of information because it thinks it's trying to help you, and it's doing its best. One of the simplest and most powerful ways to declutter is to write down your thoughts. Maybe you've got an interview coming up and you really want it to go well because you're talking to two radio presenters you've never met before, but your mind is getting you to think of 100 things at once. Write it down. Take the time to just list what you have in your mind. And very often what you have in your mind are great ideas. And the one that's buried at number 10 on the list is often the one that will serve you the most. But when your brain is cluttered, you don't get to that place of simplicity and clarity. So if you want to declutter your mind, write a list of ideas, or write a list of what you want to work on, or write a list of what's bothering you. And as you do, you'll actually find your breathing will shift, your mind will start to clear, and you can focus on what's really important, even if that's number 10 on the list.
All right. Bill, do you feel a little better now?
Yeah. I mean, no, that is a great way to look at it. And I mean, I've read self-help books and Anthony Robbins and Eckhart Tolle and all these people, but I've never quite had that particular question put in that kind of perspective. And thank you for that.
You're very welcome.
Last question here, Izzy, because we are been keeping you here for quite some time. But what is the partnership? Tell us a little bit more about the work you're going to be doing here with the Cleveland Clinic. Obviously, this is a pretty cool opportunity for you. So what's exactly the work you're going to be doing down there?
So a lot of ideas have been muted. Already I'm working privately one-to-one with some of the surgeons at the Cleveland Clinic, which is an amazing opportunity. Just a chance to work with a brain that has been so honed at such an excellent level. And a heart with each of the people that I've met. They're not only really, they not only love their work with a passion, they really care about the people they work with. So that has been a terrific outcome. But they're also talking about bringing me on board for case studies where I work with the sample section of heart and lung surgeons, and we go through a process of subjective and objective analysis before I work with them in terms of not only emotional resilience and stress management, but also present patient outcomes. Mm-hmm. Then I work with them, then we review, then we publish. It's an opportunity I never thought I'd ever have, but it goes to reinforce the power of this type of coaching and perhaps even the power of the methodology that I've developed.
Well, it's definitely a very important part of all of this. I'd be very curious to follow up with you once you get a little bit more work under your belt here because, that's a very, very critical thing when you're talking about, medical procedures, the mental aspect of going into it. Mm-hmm. I mean, that can be the difference between life or death, I think, for a lot of people. So really cool stuff, Izzy. Thank you so much for joining us and congratulations on this opportunity. And like I said, I really hope we get a chance to connect in the not too distant future and follow up on some of this.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. It's been incredible talking to you both. I've really enjoyed it.